on the goal. It's okay if you're like, you just want to kind of fumble along and you just want to do whatever deals come to your plate, but you know, a real business owner is going to know their numbers, because otherwise, how are you ever going to scale properly? How are you going to, you know, if I know, how are you going to know when you need to hire someone? Like, you want to scale to millions a year, you need to know, like, how many people do I need to hire to support that? You aren't even going to know if you don't know what the heck's going on in your business, and you're just shooting from the hip.
Well, and you know, it's a non-negotiable, and it's funny because
No.
it was like it was a hard pill for me to swallow, and a truth I had to accept, that saying I'm not a numbers guy was an absolute excuse. And being around guys like you, being around guys like Sam Singh, like those were the sort of people that just kept, every time I would ask for some advice, they would say, okay, well, what are your numbers? What are your KPIs? And when I finally started to dial into it, I started to get traction.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because you're also saying you do what you have to do until you do what you want to do.
Yeah.
How important is it for people to pay attention to the chapters that maybe the person they're looking up to is in? Because I'll often see people trying to mimic their, let's say, someone they look up to as like a mentor or a coach or someone influential on social media.
Yeah.
And that person's on chapter 70. Meanwhile, the individual watching is at chapter 7, and they're trying to copy chapter 70 advice. Do you have any advice for people that are watching people and trying to apply chapter 70 advice at chapter 7?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things is just like recognizing most of the stuff all on social media is a bunch of horse shit anyways. Like, you know, most of these people are broke, don't have any money, or they're leasing, you know, their cars, and, you know, it's like, Scottsdale's a funny place. I really love Scottsdale. No hate on anyone who lives in Scottsdale, but it's like, we all know, like, it's like you go to Scottsdale and it's like the same like slicked back hair, like same like, you know, leased C-class Mercedes thing, and like, you know, CEO in the bio, buy my course, right? Like it's, I don't know. There's a lot of nonsense that goes on. So first, you know, it's like not really believing everything you see on social media. Like, most of these people are freaking train wrecks. And, you know, over the last year, as me and Pace have started buying other businesses, people approach us that look like a lot of these guys. And we're like, man, like, this one looks like a good opportunity. And it's like their books are a freaking disaster. There's barely any money being made. The margins are garbage. Like, people saying they're making $100,000 a month and they're spending 110 to do it. It's like, but they're showing the 100 grand that actually came in. It's like, these people don't even know what the hell they're doing. And so I say that I'm not trying to be a hater, but just trying to create context for everyone of like, just don't feel bad because you see what someone else is posting or sharing, when most of the time they're full of crap anyways. And so really, now I'm just like going down this tangent. But you don't want to compare yourself. It's better to track backwards of, you know, there's a great book that, you know, I was in Utah last week for a day with my business coach, and you know, this is a guy that, if you got anyone familiar with Infusionsoft or Keep, it's a CRM email marketing software. He was the brother of the creator of Infusionsoft, and he was a VP that grew up from a couple million to over 100 million a year. And so he recommended this book that I just started reading called The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan. Have you read that, Ingrid?
I've heard to read it. I was smiling because earlier you're talking about the gap between your goals and what you want to go.
Yeah.
And, it's my understanding it helps you remember.
Creating context in perspective for yourself. Yeah, because everyone is high achievers. We're always like, the goalpost is always moving. You know, it's like the goal is 10 grand a month. You get there and you're like 20 grand a month, and you don't even recognize the 10 grand a month that you achieved, that now you're trying to get to the next target. And so it's been a great book. I listened to like 3/4 of the audiobook over the last week, and, you know, he took me through this exercise when we were there, and, you know, it literally brought me to tears, because I have not ever stopped one time in the last 12 years of entrepreneurship to recognize any actual accomplishments that I've made. And so it was like this whole thing, and I was like, damn, like, that's like good perspective, you know? And it's like, I think back, you know, when I was in high school, and it's like my dream would, you know, be like, if I could, you know, one day I would love to have, you know, an exotic car, and, you know, it's like moving into my dream house right now that, you know, has an RV garage, a 4-car garage, a movie theater room, a casita, like all on an acre, and it's like beautiful property. And then I have, you know, a Lamborghini, and it's like, but none of that affects me. Like, I'm just like, yeah, this is cool. It's just like my life. But thinking back, it's like, I remember when, you know, I remember my first mortgage I got on a home when I was 21. The mortgage was $950 a month. And I remember talking to my dad, and I was like, I'm scared to have this payment. and so it's like actually, giving yourself, like looking back and, and recognizing like the actual progress and measuring the progress that you've made versus like the gap between where you are and where you're trying to go. It's like, obviously you want to keep moving forward because, growth, in my opinion, is happiness. So you always want to grow. But looking back and like giving yourself some acknowledgement of like, I have progressed a lot. Maybe it's in knowledge, maybe it is finances, maybe it's in health, and just like actually giving yourself that, acknowledgement for the growth that you've had. And like you said, it's like not comparing yourself. I used to beat myself up. Like when I started in network marketing and I was 17, 18, and, I had a mentor, he was 25 and he was making 40 grand a month. And I was just like, I could barely fathom like that amount of money at that time. And, I used to beat myself up then. I was like, man, like I got to work harder. Like I need to be further along. And so, like running your own race and your own journey too. It's like everyone has different, priorities of what they want to achieve in their life, and so, but it's been a really good book for me, and for anyone that's you never acknowledge yourself for anything. If you're like me like that, that's probably a good book for you to read too.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it, and you're right. Like being able to acknowledge the work you came and that you did, and I want to highlight what you said. 12 years, 12 years, and we have a tendency, to your point, looking at social media. Sometimes people see what's happening today, and there's this mental assumption that like it just happened overnight.
Yeah.
It happened very quickly because maybe you talked about it a month ago and it seems like it happened now, but all the things that you did for the last decade plus is what gave you the ability to execute and move now.
Yeah.
So with that being the case, over the last decade of building skills, it now seems like, hey, Cody's doing a ton of things, right? I see he's partnering with Pace. I see he's creating Manifest U. I see he's doing, like, he's all over the map. Mm-hmm. Is it that you're now doing 20, 30, 40 different things, or did you consolidate a skill set and you're taking that skill set and applying it into 20 or 30 different places?
Yeah, I mean, it's really the skill set, and that's another thing is like, people sometimes they see other people doing multiple things and they're like, I want to do multiple things. And it's totally fine to do that. But, there's a thing, and it's in one of Robert Kiyosaki's books, this acronym FOCUS. It's like follow one course until successful. It's like creating that success in one area before you go start doing a bunch of other things. And I've seen it a lot through my 20s because I have, a lot of other high achiever type friends, and like, they're always on like the next hot thing. It's like one year it's e-commerce, the next year it's crypto because crypto's hot. The next year it's drop shipping this, or selling automated stores, and the next year it's Forex, and the next it's like the next hot thing. Like people get caught up in those things, and like the next hot thing is the thing that you stick to for 4 years at least. Like that's the next hot thing. It's just do something for 4 years. Don't quit too soon. That's the thing that people do, and so yes, we do have multiple different businesses, but I have, just in the US, we have almost 50 employees. We have, hundreds of people in the Philippines. Like, I'm not doing all of the things. And so it's like sometimes people could see that as like, well, Cody's doing multiple things, so I should be able to do multiple things as well, which you can, but you need to get the first thing to actually work and have a team to help facilitate that thing to work, so then you could work on the other things that you maybe want to create or do. You can't start one thing and then run over here and do this other thing, because you're going to start creating momentum and then it'll die over here. And then you run over here, you create momentum, dies. And then you're going to wonder, why is it that I'm never actually progressing? And it's because you're not allowing anything to compound enough to create the results that you're actually trying to get. And it can be hard, especially with social media. And I'm harping on that because I know, most folks in here, everyone's pretty young, and it's like, you see people on social media that that are doing these things, and you could be like in real estate, and a mentor told me this. He's like, this was back when I was like 18. He's like, never quit on a hard day. Quit on the day you're happy, because then that'll make you probably reconsider quitting. It's very easy to quit things when it's like you had a really shitty day. It's like every deal you have seems to be falling apart, or like it's just a freaking dumpster fire day, of stuff. And so you know, he told me, he's like, whenever, you know, you're very happy, he's like, that's when you're allowed to quit, because then you probably won't. And so that was really, you know, good advice that, you know, I've kept to. And, you know, it's just, you got to run your own race. And again, like, you can do multiple things. Like I have had people, they're like, you know, I hear you talk about like not to do multiple things, but you're being a hypocrite. And it's like, no, I have 50 freaking employees that between these companies that are what allows me to do those multiple things. It's not me. It's because I have a great team. That's the context to that.
Yeah, I love it, because I like highlighting that piece, because you're right. Like, that part just gets missed in the snippet. Like, it's not fully captured, and people aren't realizing, like, no, he's taken the last 12 years to work on a handful of skills.
Yeah, and something to look at too is like, you know, I think most people in here follow Pace on Instagram. Like, all of the content that you see coming out, our payroll just to support Pace's YouTube and Instagram and everything that you guys see is over $100,000 a month. And so it's like, when you see, it's like, man, like, this guy's posting a lot. Like, we have a fucking squad of people that are like running that. Like, it is a whole thing. Like, graphic designers, video editors, videographers, social media marketers, like all sorts of stuff to make that, you know, to make all of that run. And so, you know, it's understanding that, you know, it takes a village.
Right. And so, like, it's okay for me to not feel.
Hey, if you're enjoying this episode with Cody and this conversation and you want to see more, go ahead and click right here for the full episode and click right here for more clips. And if you want to be a part of these sort of conversations, go to mmc.mindsetmarlon.com, where we have these sort of conversations regularly, and these sort of episodes actually get viewed by our members about 30, sometimes 45 days before they ever air here on YouTube. So if you want to be the first to know, go check out mmc.mindsetmarlon.com and enjoy more episodes.
I got $1 billion mindset.